Okay, everybody, I am so lucky today because I have Katy Chen Mazzara with me, and I've known Katy for quite a while. And I would describe her in my own words, and Katy, you're gonna maybe you will like or not like the words that I used to describe you as like this wonderful, like if you ever seen the Lord of the Rings, and Cate Blanchett appears, and she's like, "I have all the powers, and I am calm, and everything is gonna be okay." That is like the experience of being with Katy when she talks to you about money. It is like everything is going to be just fine and we're going to do this together, but from a very it almost feels like I don't want to use the word regal because you're too much approachable to use the word regal, but I feel very taken care of in your presence. So I think we're all very lucky to have you on the show today, so I'm glad you're here.
Oh, thank you. I actually love that description. I'm very honored
Oh,
to be
good,
compared
great.
to Cate Blanchett from The Lord of the Rings.
Maybe your ears aren't pointy like hers, but you know what I mean. Yes.
Yes.
Um, so, Katy, just so that because I'm sure lots of this audience is not familiar with you, right? I thought we could do is first of all, everyone should know we're recording this the week of Thanksgiving. It's like the Monday before Thanksgiving. I'm giving you very cozy sweatshirt and like a beanie on my head right now. So if you happen to go look at the uncut version of this on YouTube, you will see a very cozy version of Brian. And Katie's giving you a nice Thanksgiving fall colors. And I don't know about you, Katy, but I always feel like the week of Thanksgiving, like the week of the holidays, I retreat to this like kid part of myself that's like, oh, it's a week where there's vacation. Like, I'm gonna, where are we gonna go grocery shop? I don't know. I just turn into this different part of myself that I really, really like. That
Mm.
is, we're just relating to the week a little more fluidly, or relating to the week a little bit more like there's something. I feel like I'm on vacation already, even though this is a full like work day for me. Do you have any relationship with vacation that you can, before we get into everything today, as you move into a holiday like this, does it ever come up for you? Do you relate to the week differently?
Yeah, absolutely. And especially with Thanksgiving coming up, like one of the things that I love is the idea of being so grateful for what we have already. And, as it relates to money, when we actually are grateful for the things that we have, it actually attracts more of that stuff that we really want in our lives.
Mhm. Oh, she's talking the good juice already. Okay, Katy, she's already doing it. Okay, so I'm gonna pass the mic to you for you to just share a little bit of your story for our audience who doesn't know you, so they get a little bit of background of how it all came to be that this is where you spend the majority of your time in working with your clients and everything. Can you give us a little background for you?
Yeah. So the reason I started to do this financial coaching work is because of two things. One, I was a TV producer for over 15 years. And so I was a freelancer. So I really understand what it's like to actually go through feast or famine and to understand what it's like to go from one job, a gig for 3 months, and then perhaps not work for 3 months or 6 months or 9 months.
Yes.
And so I was really trying to figure it out for myself. And once I figured it out, all my friends and colleagues started to ask me, like, what is, the secret? And so I was like, oh, so there's something that I know that other people are trying to understand as well.
Ah,
And so then I went back to school and got like a whole financial planning degree and then coaching certifications, right? And the other part of my story is more personal. It's because I've known three women in my life who stayed in abusive relationships because they didn't have the money to take care of themselves. They had small children to take care of. And so the way I see it is I really want everyone to be empowered to make decisions not based on money.
mm,
Instead, I want you to be making decisions based on the values that you have in your life and the dreams that you want to achieve, and also your desires, your deep down desires. And to not worry about whether you can pay the rent, but instead to go, oh, I have the freedom to go in this direction that I really, really want.
yeah. Oh, I'm sure a lot of people right now are like, yes, tell me the secrets. So, Katy, one of the things, whenever I hear the word secrets, I always feel like, and by the way, it's not like I'm going to open a fortune cookie and have all the answers. Like, it's going to be much more than one quick answer. Do you know
Yeah.
what I mean when we say that, right?
Yeah.
And so, in your work with people, is there a common denominator that you find a lot of times that most people have, I would say, as I put that in quotes? Like, this is one thing we almost always end up talking about.
Yeah, I think that the one thing that most people have is having a desire, but not really truly having the belief that they can get there. And whether or not that's conscious or unconscious, right? Because on the outside, you may say, of course, I want to be a series regular on a TV show, right? Of
Right.
course, I want to make $1 million doing X,
Yes.
um,
Keep talking. Yes, Katie. Yes,
yes.
yes, yes. We're manifesting right now. We are
Right.
manifesting for everyone listening. We're manifesting for ourselves. Yes.
Yeah. But then there's something deep, deep down inside of you that may be preventing you from actually getting it, mainly because of something that may have happened to you as a kid or something that you experienced or you saw, like with your parents or grandparents. And maybe it's not even something that has to do with your immediate family, but perhaps it's something intergenerational. I had a client one time who told me about a story of a grandfather that she didn't even know, who was basically stoned to death. Like, that's how serious some of this stuff was, right? He got stoned to death because he had money.
Wow.
Yeah. And so, and
Wow.
even though she never met him because he died way before she was ever born, however, the effects of it affecting her father and then it coming down to her, the way he dealt with money, it all of a sudden permeated her being. And so no
Yeah.
matter how many times she felt like, yeah, she was trying to get ahead, there was a part of her that never really truly wanted to become rich, mainly
Right.
because of this incident that happened to her grandfather.
Yeah. And what I just hear you saying so much is so many of us can put onto ourselves. Well, I just need to figure this out. This is just about me figuring it out. I need to look at my bank. It's my problem. I've just got this thing about money, and we kind of like can end the conversation. Like, I'm sure some people listening right now are getting totally uncomfortable even as they're listening to this. I'm getting uncomfortable. Katie and I'm a client of Katie's, and I have like on my third appointment, haven't even scheduled it yet. And it's been like a few months because I'm like scared. Katie, that's the truth, just so you know.
Okay.
Also, because I got a car since then, and we have to talk about debt now. And now I'm like, oh God, I don't want to talk about the car. Okay, so so what I'm hearing you say is everybody has a desire. That's everybody has the desire, but what they don't always have, it sounds like, is almost the mirror, the right mirror to look back at themselves, or the right mirror to see what also the ghosts they might be carrying behind them and stuff like that. They're from the past. What are some of the ways that you like tiptoe into this, like, that feels like, when you were a little kid and I'm all about being a little kid today. I guess it really is Thanksgiving week. But like, when you turn the lights off in your house, you're like, is there a monster under the bed? Okay, I'm going to be honest. Sometimes when I turn the lights off in my house right now, I will run from the living room to the bedroom because I'm like, I don't want a robber to get me or something. So there's that, right? So I don't know if anybody else has the darkness thing going on.
I
but
totally have. When my husband's not at home.
Oh yeah, when I'm home alone, yes.
Yeah, I turn on all the lights, right? And he'll come home and he's like, what the heck is happening? Why are all the lights in the entire house on?
Yes. My partner says the same. He goes, why are all the lights on? I don't want to turn all these lights off tonight. You turned them on. I was like, babe, no, you're not here. This is how I'm protected, because all of the people waiting outside the windows to jump in and get me or something. Okay. So that's how I think we can think about money a little bit, as like, if I go there, I'm going to unleash all these kind of like monsters or whatever.
Yeah.
What are some of the ways that you start this conversation with people?
Yeah. Well, I always tell people, like, the more unknown something is, the more we're going to fear it, actually. It is that monster in the closet. If you don't go and look in the closet and see that there is no monster in the closet, then the monster gets greater and greater, right? It gets bigger and bigger. And so it's the same exact thing with our money. We have to start looking at it and seeing what's coming in, what's going out, and what do you really want? That's actually the key point, is what do you really want, right? Because so many times, like, if we're talking about kids, right? Like, you were a kid and for your birthday, if your mom said, what do you want for your birthday, Brian? And you were like, I don't know yet, right? Then the likelihood of you getting what you want is pretty much zero. Or it might be 10% because your mom might have a kind of a guess, right?
Yes, right.
However, if you say, I want this specific, like, I don't know, the Star Wars Lego, model number, blah, 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 right?
Yes, you're in the right neighborhood. You're in the right neighborhood of my childhood right now. So yes.
Good. And then the likelihood of you getting what you want is 100%. because
Mm-hmm.
you just became that much more specific about what it is that you want. And the universe works in the exact same way. Is like the more clear you are about exactly what you want, the easier it is for you to actually achieve it.
So I have two questions because this is so helpful. Because I like your mom is the same as the universe, everybody. That's the one thing I took away from it. Like, tell your mom what you want, you get it, right? So I want to come back to that in a second because I have a thought around that. But first, I want to come to I'm the person listening who goes, yeah, but if I open the closet, I know that there's $50,000 debt in the closet. So that's already making me more scared. How do you make that a little more safe for someone? How do you begin that kind of conversation where they're like, I can't open that door because what am I gonna? It's what I imagine is I can't. It's gonna claw me. It's gonna scratch me. How do you go into that space with them?
So this reminds me of a recent conversation I had in my membership, and one of my clients, he was very, very nervous about bringing this up, and he finally brought up how much debt he had. And once he actually brought it up, there was such a sense of relief,
Mm,
even though he was saying it in front of the group. Right. And
right,
that's a really,
right,
really scary place. It's not like we were working one on one. He actually said it in front of this group of people.
right, right.
And then I actually talked about some different options for him, including the option of bankruptcy, which is even scarier,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Um, for most people, it's a really scary thought to have to go file for bankruptcy. But that's how much debt he was in. Okay. And he said later, a couple months later, now he actually said that was the moment it really woke him up and started him on the path of actually paying all of the debts down. And he's now halfway through of getting that
Wow,
a,
wow.
a lot of debt, right? We're talking about, perhaps hundreds of thousands of dollars of
Okay,
debts.
got it.
And he's like halfway through now.
Well, I love some of what you just said here, Katie, because there's this power of being witnessed
Mhm.
from owning it, right? From the you said like the other people in your membership group, hearing him saying out loud, as scary as it was for him to say out loud, like the shape of it becomes clearer to us, or the amount becomes clear when other people are there, just like even witnessing it. And I
Mhm.
imagine you must see that often when you're coaching in a group. Do you find a lot of difference in one-on-one versus when you're coaching in your membership? Because that's something I actually found too, and I think it would be interesting even for listeners too. Because I think a lot of people go, I just need to get it if they're willing to go there. They're like, I need to get a coach on this. And I often think, oh, you're actually someone who would do really well witnessing people around you. How
Yes.
do you see that in clients? Yeah, tell
Yes.
me, can you speak a little bit to that?
Yeah. So a lot of people don't feel like they can go into a group and talk about their finances. So most people, of course, want to do the one on one work. However, what I find so powerful about being in a group is that sense of being witnessed and saying your truth out loud, because that actually alleviates the shame.
Mm, mhm.
Shame, and if anybody has listened to Brene Brown, right, shame grows when it's in the darkness.
Right.
And when you
Yeah.
actually shine a light on your shame and you speak your truth, that shame actually gets quieter and says it's okay to actually have those thoughts or to have the debts or whatever it is. It's okay. And we're all in the same boat together. And we can
Yeah.
actually support each other on this and create some different changes. And we're going to be there for you
Yeah.
as you rise up and make the differences and pay down the debts, right? And we do that in our group too. We celebrate whenever somebody pays
Right.
down even just one credit card, even if it's just like $100 credit card. We
Right.
celebrate that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I love what you're saying also because, of course, I love Brené Brown's definition of shame. And I also think that in this area, even shame can almost become the opposite of a flashlight. It's like a black light. Like it's going to make it darker. Like whatever you can't look there because if you look there, I'm not even gonna, it's going to keep keeping you from looking at the places where you need to look almost. I think that's of course, that definition really helps this audience too. So,
Yeah.
um, when we're talking about freelancers and we're talking about people who have ups and downs, and then I also think there's the ups and downs that are also like the tiny ups and downs, like, oh, I got a check for $1,500, and then 2 weeks later, a check for $350. Like, there's this like low grade ennui of never feeling like it's actually there's like a cushion or something. It isn't quite the same as like a windfall of a ton of money than no money, which can be related to different, but there's almost this like, I just want to get ahead, or this idea of getting ahead. What are some things that you see help people in that when they're in that space?
Yeah.
Obviously naming what they want. I know you said naming what they want. I don't want to make you repeat yourself, but maybe just if there's something else you notice, and maybe if you even want to go there further too.
Yeah, so there's two things. One is a practical thing, and then another is a more spiritual aspect. So the practical aspect is you have to start building up a savings cushion no matter what, right? Like and most financial advisors or people who talk about money say a 3 months emergency savings is fine. However, that's not fine for those of us with inconsistent incomes. You have
Got
to
it.
save up at least 6 to 12 months of necessary expenses. We're not talking about your income, right? You're not saving
Right.
up 6 to 12 months of your income because that's crazy and that's really challenging. But instead, it's the necessary expenses, your rent, your mortgage, your food, the utilities, right? Everything that you need to live on, that needs to
Mhm.
be saved up 6 to 12 months.
Before you turn off this podcast, now don't get mad right now. I can feel people being like, "Yeah, right, lady. What is she crazy? That's no way, Jose." Right? Like people feeling that feeling. So I'm gonna. Well, don't worry. We're gonna keep talking about it. So stay
Yes.
with us if you got
Yes.
scared. Okay. So go
Yes.
ahead, as you're
And
saying, Katie.
and break it down, because if you just start with a little bit of something, right?
Mhm.
Like so many people in my group, they're like, yeah, they're nowhere near 6 to 12 months right now. However, they also have savings for the very first time in their lives,
Yes.
right? And so
So wait, I
because
have a question. Can I ask you a question? Because here's where
yes.
I get so stuck. I'm so sorry to interrupt you,
No, it's
but
okay.
I get so I have that 6 to 12 months of savings.
Yeah.
When do I get to say I need a little bit of that money? How do I know it's time to like jump into there a little bit? Does that make sense?
Whenever there's an emergency, whenever, even if it's not quite an emergency, but let's say it is like a time where, like last year when all productions were stopped, right? And you need to go into it. That's the time to go into it. And then perhaps this year, once you start working again and more money's coming in, then you can start replenishing that
So you
account
could
back
almost
again.
relate to it. So like, let's pretend I'm the actor who's working a little bit here and there, and
Mhm.
it's not 2020. Let's
Mhm.
pretend we're not in that year for a second, just for a second, right?
Yes.
And let's say I have a little bit of a dry month.
Mhm.
Like, I'm getting callbacks, but not booking.
Yep.
The residual checks aren't coming. Da da da. Should I feel okay instead of shame, or like I'm doing a bad thing for dipping into that a little
Right.
bit, or should that? Because to me that doesn't feel like emergency. So
Right.
the word emergency is really feeling big red letters. Don't touch this unless you are in the hospital. You lost your leg, like that kind of stuff.
Right.
Like, does that? So what is your? Yeah, can you
Yeah,
help us
I would.
define that a little bit?
Well, if that's how you feel about that savings, and call it a rainy day savings, whatever it is. But yes, that's the time to dip into it for sure. Of course, supplement it with some kind of income, like unemployment. So many times I hear from especially actors who are like, no, I don't feel right about going into unemployment. It feels a little bit like I'm taking from somebody else who might need it. And here's what I have to say. It's your money.
Yeah.
You've been paying into it all of this time. If you ever got any kind of check with a W-2 and they taken taxes out of it, that money goes into your unemployment account. And so if you never take that money, then you've actually been giving the government even more money. So please,
Ah.
please, please take that money. It is your money to take, and it's a way for you to actually have a little bit of cushion, a little bit of an extra thing, so
Mm.
that you have some kind of income coming in, right?
Wow, and I hear you just saying that because we need to give actors permission around that.
Mhm.
Because so much, and any freelance person, because like our job is the hustle, our job is putting ourselves out there. Like what does it mean if I take unemployment? Because I'm always unemployed. What are you even talking about? Like I have a job for 3 days. That's not a job, right? So like the relationship with that, and I'm sure a lot of actors don't even know how to relate to where do I even go to do this stuff? Like I get a random check every once in a while. What does that mean, right? So I just think the permission you've just given us of you've been paying into it. It's there
Yes.
for you. And so then that way you're able to maybe establish a little bit of this, like you said, this we can call this rainy day fund, this emergency fund, whatever word works for you. And
Yep.
what I'm hearing you say is it might take a long time to get to the 6 month mark.
Yes.
Right. And there
Yes.
may be a time when and you have to bounce back into it at times, but just
Mhm.
having that little bit of savings is a huge piece. I kind of interrupted you on this path because I was very concerned about this 12-month, I got freaked out about this 6 to 12 months, right? But you were saying there's a practical piece and then there's a spiritual piece to it. Can you share
Yeah.
what that spiritual piece is?
Yeah, the spiritual pieces, and this is such a huge secret in how to alleviate some of that feast or famine mode, right? Is you must be in the energy of creation to keep it steady and consistent. So what does that mean? It means that, if you are on set for something, before it ends, start putting out the feelers, right? Start talking to your agent or your manager. If you don't have one, then start talking to other people. What else is coming up that you can actually get on? So because you're already in that energy, it creates more of that energy. It's the same thing as whenever you get a gig and somebody else calls you for another gig, right? Like it's like when it rains, it pours. It's the
Yeah.
same exact thing. So start to create that energy before it ends, because once it ends and you're just at home, sitting at home, waiting by the phone, that energy is much more challenging to bring in something new.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Like self-generated. Yeah. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you are in the energy of like nothing is happening, then start creating. Start creating something for yourself that actually is what you want, right? Like I know that the last podcast episode or so, you had Emily Grace on, and she was
Yeah.
talking about creating content, right,
Yeah.
for yourself. And that's exactly what I'm talking about too. It's like start creating content or start writing for something for yourself. Start getting into the energy of creation, right? Start putting
Mm.
yourself into the energy of what you really truly desire, and so that you can create other things to come in the same way.
Yeah, wow. I think a lot of us, I would say a lot of people don't relate to this connecting to money. We can connect it to success working as an actor, but we
Mhm.
don't connect it to the abundance piece of it. We connect it to abundance in career,
Mhm.
but we don't connect it to abundance in paycheck. Like it's almost like, well, don't, no, you can't expect there to be money attached to that because you can never guarantee that. So don't even think about it being a money thing. Because I'm just thinking about the number of times that like I've been on set or have done something. And then while on set, I'm emailing my agent or starting to draft the newsletter or whatever I'm going to send out about, look at this picture of me next to my trailer. Or
Yes.
while you're actually in that energy of doing the thing of like reaching out to the friend you talked about creating that web series with, or making
Yes.
the meeting for the web series you're already working on, or the writing, right? So that you're in that frequency. Sometimes I call that the frequency. Like,
Yes.
and I often feel like, and I don't know if you, Katie, I'm curious about this, is I've had a couple actors recently who kind of really are getting really successful. They're in their
Mhm.
rains series, when it rains, it pours kind of moment.
Yeah.
And them having a like car accident around, wait, I don't know how to relate to abundance right now.
Mhm.
Like, I do not know who I am right now or how to expand in this way. Do you see that also in the way that you're working with people with their finances?
100%. Yes. And that is the emotional piece. That is what we talked about in the very beginning around your own belief system, right? So many times, like, child actors or rock stars, right, will make tons of money and then blow it all. And it's because of this piece, right? Like they don't understand what their beliefs are kind of going up against what is happening in their lives. And so then it creates a thing where they just want to spend it all. Like as soon as money's coming in, they're just letting
Got
it
to get rid of
go.
it.
Got to get rid of it.
Yeah.
Got to, give it away. Oh, I'm paying for lunch. I'm doing this. I'm doing that. Right. Instead of having a balance in terms of, yeah, you can, pay for your friend's lunch, and you can also save some of it and learn to receive, because that's what saving really is. Saving is really learning to receive and saying, I can have something good, right? I can keep the good in my life. So that is such a key point, right? And then also, this ties into our self worth, because to me, self worth is equal to net worth. Again, net worth does not equal self worth because of those moments when, lottery winners, right? Like, I think there's a high number of lottery winners who've actually spent all the money in a year or something like that. And so we want to be able to cultivate our own self-worth so that we actually can receive more money, and we can also keep it and know that we're worthy of having it. We're worthy of receiving all that's good.
Ah, that's so powerful, particularly when you said that net worth is equal to your self-worth. Can you speak into that just a little bit more? Because that really perked up my ears.
Yeah. And it's actually the opposite. It's self-worth
Other way,
equals
yeah,
your net
yes,
worth.
that's
Yeah.
what I meant. Yes, yes, we got to get that straight too. You make sure we
Yes.
get that right. Self-worth is
Yes.
equal to your net worth. Yes.
Yes. Yeah. So your self-worth, to me, it's not like, oh, I'm so great and I'm going to brag about myself and I think I'm hot shit, right? It's not that.
But you can think that about yourself, but that's not what it is. Yes.
Right.
Right.
Instead, your self-worth is a very quiet, powerful knowing deep down inside of you that you know who you are and what you bring to the table. And this, who you are and what you bring to the table, that's what other people are receiving at all points. When we're talking about energy, this is that energy. And so if I know, right, and I know you and I know who you are and I know what you bring to the table, Brian. And it's so powerful. And now it makes me go, I want more. I want more of Brian, right? Like Brian is so magnetic and he's so energetic and he, is witty and smart and funny and all of these things, right? And it's not just like the superficial version of that, but instead it's like, I get your essence.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And now
Thank you, by the
want.
way. Thank you.
Yes.
I will say thank you on that. Thank you.
Good.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and what, we talk about this a lot on this podcast and in this community, because I talk about what do you bring into every room or in your self-tape, regardless of what the content is, regardless of what the situation of the scene is, you bring this into every room. And I remember for one client, this really unlocked things for her. She wanted a series regular so bad. She was getting close. And when she understood, I bring something into the room, no matter what my performance looks like, that is when it unlocked for her and she booked her series regular. But it was like, and it's not something when you're like, let me go down the black hole of what do I bring in. It's actually quite much easier than that to understand about yourself. Ask your friends. Ask the people who love you. I think it's the thing that's been true about you since the day your mama held you in her arms, that that's what's there for you, right?
Yes.
So naming it is less difficult than we think, I think, if we can get some other perspectives to join us.
Yeah.
So what you're saying,
yeah. And it's the key to really staying out of that competition mode.
Yeah. It's interesting when you say that, when you think about, so there's like a million questions I have, but I'm going to start with this one, which is when you're talking about what you said at the beginning, the common denominator is trying to name what you desire. So I'm like, look at that house on Instagram. I want that kitchen. I want that, like, obviously I'm thinking about someday buying a house. So that's a lot on my mind right now. Or like, can I have that sweatshirt? Where do you get that sweatshirt? Like, those are the things that go up in my mind of like desire, but there's we always have things like, oh, I love that cup, right? Like, look at that lady's pair of pants, right? We have 1,000 things that we want. When you're talking about desire, how do you help someone like focus this? Does it even need to be focused? What's your relationship with naming that?
It definitely needs to be focused, because if you're just randomly like every single thing you see you want, then again, the universe gets confused, right? It's the same thing. Going back to the mom example, it's like if you're at the store, you're at the toy store, you're at the grocery store, and you're like, I want that, I want that, I want that, I want that. Your mom's just gonna be like, okay, yeah. We'll think of
get nothing.
Right?
You're annoying. You get nothing. You get nothing. You're annoying.
Yeah, exactly. We'll talk about it later when it is your birthday or when it's Christmas or something. But you probably won't get anything on that trip, right?
Yeah.
So it's the same thing. I mean, we have to focus in on what it is. What are your greatest desires? What is the thing that really is going to make your life that much greater? And then also, where is it in your purpose and your gifts and your talents, right? Because I really believe, and I don't, and I'm not like super religious, but I really love the parable of the talents that's in the Bible. There's a story of, 3 servants and a master who goes away on a trip, and he gives talents to each of them. And in the Bible, the word talent means money, like it's coins or, some sort of currency. However, the word talent is in our current vernacular, right? Like our talents, our gifts.
Right.
And then just to make it shorter, it's like the servants that actually use their talents and created more from it, they were rewarded with more. And the one servant who actually said, I'm really afraid of using this talent. I know you worked hard for it. I buried it in the ground, and now I'm going to unbury it and give it back to you. That servant actually got punished and was called all kinds of names. And to me, this parable is such a great way to start thinking about, like, we have a God-given talent, right? Whether you believe in God or not, we have a talent that's given to us.
Right.
That's very specific to who you are. And if you don't use it, you're basically slapping the universe in the face and saying, no, thank you. I don't want that in my life. But instead, it's so, so important that you actually shine your gifts into the world. That is your purpose in your life.
Yeah. Yeah. I love what you said there. And I also think it's so true, because I think if you don't, it festers or it leaks. It becomes like, I'm really good at straightening up my house, and my house looks beautiful, and the New York Times could arrive at any time and take a photograph. By the way, that's what happens in my house sometimes, right? Or like, I really love to cook, and I'm going to spend all my time in the kitchen. Not to say that cooking can't also be a hobby, but we can find ourselves leaking our creativity away from that biggest calling because we're afraid of it, or we haven't felt like the bounce back of the energy from it, or something bruised you or something along the way. And so what I'm hearing you say, the image that I got of the servant who buried it was all the people who are like treating him badly is like the voices inside our own head. Yes. It's just the voices that are saying, like, stay small, you did it wrong, don't do it again, stay where you are, don't do right. So then this other thing that you said that was a little bit challenging to me, so I want to see what your theology around this is. I very strongly believe in I'm not a religious person either, but I have a strong spirituality. Obviously, I'm a reverend and non-denominational reverend, right? And so, believe in spirituality, right? And so for me, there's this other level of manifestation that, like, I don't believe in, like, the universe is my errand boy. I will tell it I want a red fire truck for Christmas, and there'll be a red fire truck under my Christmas tree. To me, and this is my own perspective, so I'm not saying this has to be everybody's, it feels like low-level spirituality because it's not at a higher level. What is your relationship kind of, and I might be putting you on the spot here a little bit with this, what is your relationship with, which I'm okay with, I hope you are, what is your relationship with that, that manifestation, I guess, would be, what's your relationship with manifestation in that way? What do you think?
Yeah. I mean, I don't believe that it's, the universe is our errand boy, right? And that, it's there to do whatever our bidding. That's not what the purpose is. However, when we tap into a greater purpose, a bigger than ourselves goal, essentially, right? Something that is, it is like kind of this deep down soul thing, then and exactly what it is that you want from that, and you're going after it and you're taking action, right? Then it's what the alchemist said, the whole universe conspires in helping you to get there.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Because
I so agree with that.
Otherwise, if it's not that, and if it's just some superficial things, right, then it's going to be much more challenging to get there, and you're not going to see the types of people who you need to show up in your life.
Right. Yeah, I love what you just said, because I truly believe that when you're in your purpose and you're walking towards the people, are all, like you said, the universe conspires, so the people show up. The right people are right in front of you, right? Yes. I think it might be, I might get this wrong, but I think it's an indigenous people's poem or saying that is like, we are the ones we've been waiting for, that we are there. And so part of what you said just now that I think is so important is, I think a little bit back to The Secret, when the book The Secret was super popular, and The Secret felt like it was very like, make the universe your errand boy, period, is what it felt a little bit like. It didn't feel like it was connected to a higher purpose. But what I think a lot of people got from it is when they were thinking about what they wanted to manifest, they were connecting to how it's going to affect the people in their lives. What is it bringing to everybody else without it necessarily asking them to do that? And so it was elevating it to that level of, when I am in my divine purpose, I am actually providing for the world. I'm helping the world. I'm not just providing for myself.
Right. That's beautiful. And then, yeah, when it comes to money, though, the secret has it wrong a little bit. It's just like
Tell us.
yeah, you can't just put up a vision board, right, with all the things that you really want and like dollar signs all over it, and like money's just going to fall into your lap because money is very earthly. Right? We can't take
Yeah.
it with us. And it's something that humans actually have invented, right? And we invent the currency and what value we place on it. Like every country has its own value of their currency. And so you have to do some work. You have to actually make the effort to do something practical in order to actually bring in even more money.
Got it.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. So something that always comes up, I think, when people think about financial planning is, I need to know about the stock market. I need to know things about what are stocks and bonds and what's the Dow Jones and NASDAQ. Like they feel like that's what they need to understand. Can you help us? You don't have to teach us those things. Obviously, we could have 16 podcast episodes or 300. Can you help us understand how we can relate to the financial news we hear on the radio or we watch on TV, like how we can relate to that from a place of like either disinterest or complete overwhelm, or I don't know anything about that. I'm never going to be a student of finances because I'm never going to know about that. Can you help us understand just a little bit of that? Like you said, the earthly things that have been created.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, first of all, I gotta say, I was never good at math. So I am one of those finance people that's like not good at math. And I am a right-brained creative type, right? That's why I spent 15 years of my life in, working in television. And I the way I see investments and stocks and bonds and all of those things is the same way as I see, like, I believe in everybody investing in themselves, right? And in the same way that, your clients are investing in their acting careers, right? By working with you so that they don't have to do it all themselves, learn it all themselves, right? And it's actually helps you to make more in the long run. In the same thing. So stocks and bonds are just a way for you to start putting away some money and have it work harder for you than you're working for it. Right. And in the same way that like your savings accounts, if you put money into a savings account, if you're at one of the big banks like Wells Fargo or Bank of America, you're earning 0.01% interest.
Right.
Okay. If you put money in the stock market this year alone, the stock market went up 30%. So you left a lot of money on the table, right? And then in the last 10 years, it actually has gone up 10% on average. So that's a difference between like a penny and $10 per dollar you put in.
Right.
So
and I hear this, I think people are like, yeah, but oh my gosh, then I could lose it all. It feels like gambling, like they relate to the way they relate to like Las Vegas or something, but I could lose it all and whatever. If I'm the person who's like thinking about, oh yeah, first I got to handle on my debt before I can even do the 6 to 12 months emergency, what, like I'm doing this, I got all this spinning in my head.
Yes.
Would you say, hold off on this stocks and bonds?
Yes.
Land. Don't do crypto, cool your jets here.
Yes. Right? Yes. And yes, there is a method to it, right? I tell all my clients, go with paying off your debts first. That's number one. Because if you're just saving and paying down debts, you're kind of paying Peter to, robbing Paul to pay Peter, or whatever that saying is.
Yes. Kind of, yeah.
Yeah. So you want to do it systematically and methodically. So first, pay off your debts. Then secondly, start that savings, the 6 to 12 months, because then you also have more money to actually pay into your savings, right? And once you have the 6 to 12 months, then start investing.
Got it.
And then
that's a lovely plan.
Yes. And investing, it is a long-term thing. I don't believe in the short term. I don't believe in day trading. I don't believe in just buying and selling constantly. I mean, first of all, it is a risk. Like you are gambling. You might as well put some money on the craps table at the casinos.
Yeah.
Right. And instead you're putting it into something very safe into the stock market, and so that it carries it on for the long term, right? And you're balancing it with some stocks, with some bonds, and so that then it's a long term thing that by the time you're ready to retire or whatever, you have a huge nest egg, and you
Got
don't
it.
have to think
Got it.
about it.
Yeah, and when you say that, I think that a lot of people are like, "Oh, it's so far away from me." And one of the things that I just, I remember at one point I was like, "Okay, you have a tiny bit of money right now. Don't be dumb." Is what all I just kept saying, "Don't be dumb. Like, do the right thing with this. Don't spend." Because I remember like depleting my 401k as a young person. It's like I can't even afford my rent right now. That I had a job that had a 401k. I remember all the messy things that are not helpful. And so one of the things that I think is, or the most profound thing is, people need this training as young as they can possibly get it, or need this kind of coaching as young as they can get it, because the thing that's on your side when you save is time.
Yes.
And so the younger you can start, the earlier, let's say younger, the earlier you can start this kind of understanding, then you're going to have time on your side for a longer period. So is there something that you would want everyone who's listening to kind of hear wherever they're at in their journey in terms of, is there something you'd want everyone to walk away from today that you'd want everyone to hear?
Yeah. Well, in terms of this piece, it's never too late, to be honest. It's never too late. I've had people in their 50s come to me and say, I've never saved anything. I have zero. I'm starting up
Mm-hmm.
from scratch. And then once we start the process, right, they actually have, they'll have enough to really start to live off of, by the time they retire. So there isn't a point where you're like, it's too late. I guess if you are in your 80s and you're in retirement, then perhaps it may be a little too late to start saving or investing. But you can still invest the money that you have, in that sense. And then, you're never too young to actually get started, because, some people feel like, I'm years away from it. However, if you start to create the foundations for yourself now, then it's going to carry you so much farther in the future, right? Like I don't know if anybody has seen this, but like there's been charts and graphs about how if somebody saved from the time they're like 21, for example, to 31, right? Or, and then, and they put in only $100 a month for those 10 years and then stopped. Right. And then somebody else didn't even start till they were 31. And then they kept paying into it until they're retired, like 65 or 67. Right. The person that actually stopped and paid for 10 years actually made 100 or 200,000 more than the person who started later.
Because of the time just sitting there and taking care of it.
Yeah. Yes.
Right. Yeah. So we all feel this fire under our butts right now. I hope everyone's listening and having a fire under their butt. And so, Katy, if people want to, I don't know how anyone couldn't fall in love with you, because I feel like, and yes, money is going to be fine. Cate Blanchett is here. So the queen of the elves. I don't even think she's an elf. I don't even remember what the legend is. It just feels great to be around, right? So if people want to go further into Katy's world and learn a little bit more about the way that you talk so spiritually and grounded with practicality, I think, which is one of your gifts that you give us, where would they do that?
Yeah. So you can follow me on all of the socials. I'm at Katy Chen Mazzara on everything. That's also my website. However, I'm also having a masterclass that's coming up December 7th,
we all need to be there.
8th, and 9th.
We need to be there December 8th and December 7th, 8th, and 9th.
Yes,
3 days.
yes.
3 options. Okay, great.
3 days, free, totally free. And we're going to spend some time talking more in depth about all of this and answering your questions. So bring your questions to me and we can go through them, right? Because there's a lot of stuff that maybe applies just to you and your particular circumstances. And so we can get through that. And then you'll also learn my financial freedom method, to actually
and that's
create.
December 7, 8, and 9.
Yes.
And it's
Yes.
live. And wait, you guys, I can ask some good questions, but I know you have better ones that I didn't ask today. So the gift that Katie is also giving, besides the fact that it's free, is her live in person asking the question, the circumstance that's coming up for you. So I think this is a beautiful opportunity. And is there a website to go to, or should we just be going to your socials to find it?
Yeah, so I'll give it to you, and you can put it in the show notes. But it's
Okay, great.
Yeah, because it's a pretty long one. It's
Okay, great. We'll put the show, but then we can also find it right on your socials, which is fine. We'll put all this in the show notes.
Yeah.
But Katy Chen Mazzara on Instagram is probably where a lot of the listeners can go grab right away and get involved the 7th, 8th, and 9th. And what a lovely way, I would say, like in terms of timing, to think about, we're right on the cusp of what is 2022 going to look like, and setting ourselves up for what do we want our energies to feel like when it comes to abundance. And also, hello, we all need a reset after what was 2020 and what that did to the whole world, inflation and markets and all those things. Katy, this was a really delightful conversation for me. I'm really grateful that you shared your time with us. Is there anything else that you didn't get to say that you would want to say today? I just want to make sure that you have the mic if you need it.
I just want to say that you are worthy, that anybody who's listening to this right now, you were meant to listen to this in this moment, and that you are worthy of receiving all that's good.
That's so nice. I'll take that in. That starts my day. Thank you so much for being here, Katy. We'll have to have you back again. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Brian. I loved it.
Thanks. Good.